Johnny Mac with your daily comedy news. According to a new poll, says Seth Meyers, President Biden's approval rating has increased slightly over the last 2 months. Now the White House is scrambling like hell to figure out what he did. Did he change his hair? Different mask? What tie was he wearing? That's right. President Biden's approval rating has increased to 42%. He now ranks slightly above leaf blowers. Fallon said Biden was like, thank God, inflation finally got to me. Even Biden was surprised by the results. He triple-checked it like an at-home COVID test. He was like, this can't be right. This can't be right. Look at this. Is this right? I'm not even sure what caused the spike. Apparently, a lot of Americans thought, I like how he handled Easter. It's great news for Biden, although it's hard to celebrate when your approval rating skyrockets and it's still only 42%. Sticking with late night really quickly, you know who seemed really comfortable hosting late night? Mike Birbiglia. I wouldn't have guessed that, but when he filled in for Kimmel last week, he was pretty good. Mike Birbiglia take over the CBS 1230 slot? I can't imagine that. He's not really all that well known, but boy, he did a really good job. Is there a job as like late night guest host guy? Maybe. I mean, Kimmel's been taking the summers off. Maybe he'll take the summer off again and let Mike host. Who knows? All right, if you didn't listen yesterday, Mother's Day, you were with the mom and the wife, I get it. There was a Dave Chappelle, Chris Rock joint concert appearance. I told you about that in yesterday's show. So if you didn't hear it, download it. But a whole bunch of Dave Chappelle stuff here in the first half today. Both Netflix and Chappelle issued public statements about the attack last week. Netflix got right to the point and said, we care deeply about the safety of creators, and we strongly defend the right of stand-up comedians to perform on stage without fear of violence. How many lawyers wrote that statement? Chappelle's statement sounded a little more like it was created by humans. That statement, Dave Chappelle celebrated 4 nights of comedy and music, setting record-breaking sales for a comedian at the Hollywood Bowl. This run ties Chappelle with Monty Python for the most headlined shows by any comedian at the Hollywood Bowl, reaching 70,000 fans of diverse backgrounds during the first Netflix is a Joke the festival, and he refuses to allow the incident to overshadow the magic of the historic moment. As unfortunate and unsettling as the incident was, Dave went on with the show. The statement adds, Jamie Foxx and Chris Rock helped calm the crowd with humor before Chappelle introduced the last and featured musical guest for the evening, hip-hop artist Black Star, who performed music from the new album, the first in nearly 24 years, which was released on Luminary. They even got in like some commercial plugs in there. Well done, statement. Other comedic guests included Earthquake, Leslie Jones, Jeff Ross, Sebastian, Jon Stewart, and Michelle Wolf. Per the Daily Mail, the person who was charged had posted rap videos on YouTube going back to 2020. One uploaded in June is titled Dave Chappelle. He spelled Chappelle wrong, but that's beside the point. The Daily Mail says the alleged assailant makes repeated references to jokes in the song, but it's unclear if he was a fan. The comedy world is reacting. The Laugh Factory announced they'll put up metal detectors. Conan O'Brien said on stage he was asked by festival organizers if he wanted a barrier put up between the audience and the stage. Conan laughed at the absurdity of it, given who he was, and he declined. Donnie Zoldan owns Stand Up New York. He spoke with Fox News Digital and said, it's shocking to hear. The individual that attacked Dave Chappelle did so with a knife. It was planned in advance. I'm curious what they would consider felony conduct. Yeah, the guy's misdemeanor, it sounds like. People should be held accountable for their actions. Not charging this person appropriately sends a message that it's okay to physically harm someone. It's really outrageous. Will Smith got an Oscar after he slapped Chris Rock. Actually, I know Donnie. I'm like doing this. Donnie's a soft-spoken person, and I'm reading this like, Will Smith got an Oscar after he slapped Chris Rock. That's not Donnie at all. He probably would be more like, Will Smith got an Oscar after he slapped Chris Rock. And now this. LA's awesome, and residents deserve to live there violence-free. Politicians, police need to do their job right. I mean, we're definitely not going to have security at Stand Up New York. Small venues, most of them can't afford to have that extra payroll. It's expensive to have security at a small comedy club. We'll have a discussion with the staff about what procedures are needed to be put in place so people don't breach the stage. We never had that conversation before. Kevin Hart was on Mike Birbiglia Live. He said the swift response by security might have audience members thinking twice about rushing the stage, not to mention that the guy's elbow seemed a little out of place. Jamie Masada, who owns the Laugh Factory, shared his disappointment with the DA's decision not to file felony charges. He said, it's just so unjust. I don't know about the law, but I do know what's right. And from my perspective, that was a felony, not a misdemeanor. It's just not right. Howie Mandel, I think, went a little too far. Here's the headline from the New York Post. Howie Mandel. Dave Chappelle Attack is the beginning of the end of comedy. No, it's not. Yes, I want comedians safe. Yes, people should stop being jerky holes and don't attack anyone ever. not just comedians, just don't attack people in general. But is this the beginning of the end of comedy? No, it's not. Howie Mandel told E! News not to comment on what happened at the Academy Awards, but I thought that had opened the floodgates. We're already as comedians being attacked as far as being canceled for something you don't like, something you find offensive, something you think is too soon. You saw what happened at the Academy Awards, and I thought that just triggers violence, and I think this is the beginning of the end for comedy. Again, my commentary is, no, it's not. He joked if he were in Rock's shoes or Chappelle's shoes, I wouldn't stand there, I wouldn't fight back, I would just run. Watching what happened to Dave Chappelle confirmed my fear. I was watching it kind of live on Twitter. Wait, what? How are you watching it live on Twitter? No cell phones involved. Was somebody live streaming the show? Howie Mandel, are you watching bootleg streams? Howie Mandel said, I turned to my wife and I said, I don't want to go on stage. I'm just really afraid. He was asked if he would plan future comedy tours. Mandel said, the love of what we do is fading. Joking now has no safety net. Earthquake spoke to people and said it was a fantastic night, an epic night. The lineup was great, and I congregated with all the people at the show. The festival itself was a real first time that comedians got to be together in complete diversity. We were about to do a curtain call. This guy tackled Dave like he played for the Rams. Dave held his own, and unfortunately, security had to handle it. It stalled the night, but didn't stop it. The night went on. Dave handled it like a pro. He's one of the greatest human beings I've ever met in my life. I've known him for 30 years. He's a master at his craft. It all amounts to this. People are really trying to silence our voice. Well, as I mentioned yesterday, the assailant said he was trying to bring some attention to his, grandmother's situation about gentrification or something. I don't think he was trying to silence Dave Chappelle. I think it was more of a case of trying to impress Jodie Foster, if you know what I mean. From Yahoo, comedian Tehran Vangarzi claims security dismissed his concern. He said he was one of the many ticket holders who were in attendance when Chappelle was attacked. I was in the audience in the pool section, which is the closest section of the stage you can possibly be. It was intended for VIP, industry, and celebrity guests, and I was fortunate enough to be part of that selection. You know, before I read this next paragraph, I feel like this guy's trying to get a little attention for himself, because listen to the quote here. This quote here is trying a little too hard to get noticed. Are you ready? Here it comes. And as a person watching this show, this phenomenal show, Jeff Ross is the host, Jimmy Carr, Earthquake, Jon Stewart, then the surprise guest, Chris Rock, the Jabberwockies performed, and then Dave Chappelle gave an amazing performance, and it was just so wonderful. Such a fantastic, beautiful night. Is that rehearsed? Did you write that for half an hour? Nobody speaks like that. Come on, man. Vangarzi said, I see there's a young person. A young man walks up with intent, slides over the barrier that separates the pool area, which is the closest area to the back area, slides over that barrier within 3 feet of me. I turn to the person to my left and I expressed, that's very suspicious. He agrees and says, that is very sketch. As the person jumps over the barrier, he then walks directly to the stage front with intent. Because of that, I did my best to alert the security guard who was immediately behind us and expressed with concern, this person jumped over the barrier. This person walked to the front. We should do something. Alert somebody. Does any of this sound... yeah. He told security, at least keep your eye on them. To which, to be honest, the security dismissed my concern. Within 30 seconds of all this, the assailant leaps over the barrier to get on stage, runs aggressively towards Dave Chappelle, and knocks right into him. Now, if it wasn't for his own clumsiness and Dave Chappelle's personal strength, dude, you are trying way too hard. This is a comedian. You know, I happen to be at the show. I happen to be in the VIP area, even though I'm not a VIP. What's going on here? I gotta read the sentence slowly. Ready? Now, if it wasn't for his own clumsiness and Dave Chappelle's personal strength, he's been working out. I think it could have been much, much worse. I didn't add that he's been working out. That's in there. This person clearly, it was premeditated, it was pre-orchestrated, and it was organized. This was an attack on Dave Chappelle, which is an attack on comedy, which is an attack on all comedians, and to be honest, is an attack on freedom of speech, because what else is liberty but the right to say things that people do not or may not want to hear, and that's what makes comedy so amazing. Oh, there's more. Vangarzi then shared he was able to talk to Chappelle after the attack and thank him for what he did as a comedian. I spoke to Dave myself. I thanked him for what he did as a comedian. I shook his hand and told him he's a G for going through what he did and brushing it off like it was nothing. I was just glad that he was safe. Last thing I told him was he's such a better person than I am, because he was still being so compassionate and kind. For the future of comedy in the landscape, this does not change anything, because this is what comedians are. This is who we are as a people. We are fearless. We say things whether the audience needs to or wants to hear it or not. We are the heroes that you need, not the ones you always deserve. And to be very honest, as comedians, we are becoming increasingly more afraid of hecklers coming on stage. This is becoming a much more common occurrence, especially at places like the Laugh Factory. What? This stage is a safe place and a safe space, not only for comedians, but for the audience as well. So an attack on one comedian is an attack on comedy as a whole. And as everyone knows, whenever a tyrant or dictator comes in, comedy is so important that the comedians are the first group of people they attempt to silence. Do not silence the comedians. Protect our comedians. Protect our First Amendment rights. Wow. Julia Scotti posted on Facebook, in the past, I've made no secret about my feelings for Dave Chappelle, so I won't rehash them again. This essay is about him being attacked on stage and to a lesser extent what happened to Chris Rock at the Oscars. Julia Scotti wrote, comedy is one of the last bastions for truly free speech. Ask any comic if they feel the same way, and I bet they would agree. One of the reasons people come to see us is that comedians often reflect what the audience is feeling, but dare not say aloud. Sometimes it's risky, but we hope if we present it in a humorous, absurd way, you'll see what we see. In general, most comedians will adhere to the unwritten rule of not punching down, that is, not picking on those who can't fight back. Chappelle, of course, violates this rule constantly. In fact, just after the attack, he jokingly referred to his attacker as a trans man. Now, I'm sure that his lame attempt at humor was an effort to try to diffuse the tension on stage and return to normal, but joking or not, there are some in the audience who will believe their idol was indeed attacked by a deranged trans man. I don't know if the attacker was or wasn't. I don't care, neither should Chappelle. What I do care about is this seeming trend toward violent response when somebody's unhappy with the comedian's words. It pains me to have to defend Chappelle because there's a bigger issue here. What does it say about us as a nation when our only response to being dissatisfied with the outcome of an event is to resort to violence? Julia continued, but I'll skip to the bottom. And through my lens, at least, it seems that every time something like this happens, we remove another block from the wall that separates us from anarchy and mob rule. It's sad. Really very, very sad. Will Smith is going to be on David Letterman's Netflix series. Whoa. There's a detail you need to know. It was filmed prior to March 2022. Yeah, so unfortunately, it's not Letterman asking Will Smith about the slap. It's Letterman interviewing, good old Will Smith, the Fresh Prince, the guy from Independence Day, getting jiggy with it. Everybody loves Will Smith, right? That's who David Letterman interviewed. The new season of David Letterman's My Next Guest Needs No Introduction drops on May 20th. Hey, you guys have heard me gush about David Letterman. I have very little interest in this show. His interview with Chappelle was great, but I watch a lot of these episodes and I'm like, I don't really want to hear Dave interview people. I want to hear Dave messing around and being goofy. I know we all age and mature, but I don't know. It's one of those things like, I love Letterman, but I have no interest in this. The rest of the lineup will be Cardi B, Billie Eilish, Kevin Durant, Julia Louis-Dreyfus, and Ryan Reynolds. If you enjoy what I do here, you can go to buymeacoffee.com/dailycomedynews and you can refresh that bad boy. I've been recording a bunch of things. I just did the Mother's Day episode right before this and some of the stuff from my Live One show, which is called The Weekly Comedy Thing. New episode out now. It is free if you want to listen to that on the Live One app. So I'm running out of voice. Buymeacoffee.com/dailycomedynews. On the Facebook group, Dan Bublitz Jr. asked a great question. Dan wrote, Netflix claims it's losing a bunch of money due to losing subscribers. So do you, Johnny Mac, think the big Netflix is a joke festival will be reoccurring or a one and done? Seems like a spendy festival to put on. That's a great question. I answered it on the Facebook page, but I'll also answer it here. And I said, let me break this apart. First of all, the short answer is they'll absolutely continue this, but let me break it apart. Say all we did was have Dave Chappelle play the Hollywood Bowl. We would make money on that. Dave Chappelle would make money on that. The promoters would make money on that. So everybody would make money on that. Now extrapolate that. Hey, we're selling out theaters. Everyone's making money. So that alone is reason enough just to have the comedy festival and sell tickets. Then let's add on the press. Say you're Gabriel Iglesias. Nice comic. Cool guy in real life, worked with him on Comedy Central Radio. But if we compared, say, comedians to athletes, Gabe is like one of those guys that up until this point is like a stat accumulator. Like you'll look at it at the end and you'll be like, oh, wow, he's got Hall of Fame stats. He's been around for a million years. But was Gabe Iglesias ever Dave Chappelle? Was he ever Louis C.K. at his peak? Was he ever George Carlin? No. You know what I mean? But now ad on the press. Hey, Gabe Iglesias sold out Dodger Stadium. Wow. So that helps Gabe sell his story and gives him more, I'll call it Hall of Fame credentials, if you know what I mean. It just next levels him a little bit. Another piece of the puzzle. If we can film these shows, even if we have to pay, say, Dave Chappelle a lot of money, this is inexpensive programming. This is way cheaper than getting Steve Carell to do Space Force Season 3. All right, Gabe Iglesias at Dodger Stadium. Let's agree to make this into a special. We got to pay a camera crew. Somebody has to edit it, but plus we get to sell tickets. That's a moneymaker. It looks cool on the Netflix homepage. This is good programming. Yep. So all those reasons alone, I think it will continue. But here's the most important piece, and this is informed by my days back at SiriusXM, and it's what I call the cool party to be at factor. To attract A-list talent, you need to be around A-list talent. I was at Sirius for 10 years. The second 5 years, it was a lot easier to pitch people than the first 5 years. The first 5 years was like, who are you guys? What's Cyrus? Never heard of that. Then Howard Stern came and that kind of changed. By the end, people were like getting mad at me. How come you're not giving my clients so-and-so a show? Like people were knocking down our doors trying to get shows because we were the cool party to be at. To attract A-list talent, you have to be around A-list talent. So for industry, agents, press, you want your company to have buzz and seem show busy. This festival was a really good look. It was well received. And it's in Los Angeles. We're not asking everyone to go to Canada or Texas. It's in LA. You just have to go out for 3 hours. So it got seen by the people they wanted to see it. Home run. Netflix nailed that festival. It was great. Do I think it'll return? Absolutely. Oh man, I just checked the clock. I've got like 5 stories left. I don't want these episodes to get too long. All right, a couple things can wait. Let's do the news. Katt Williams, he's got a new special. It's called World War III. Oops, he called it that back in January before the Ukraine war. This will be on Netflix May 17th. The official press release says, in the war between truth and lies, there's only one man you could trust, comedy legend Katt Williams. He returns to deliver the unfiltered truth as he hilariously breaks down conspiracy theories in his new comedy special, World War III. Oh, and let me tell you about the Rhode Island Comedy Hall of Fame. This from What's Up Newport. The Comedy Park will be the permanent home of the Rhode Island Comedy Hall of Fame. It was established 10 years ago, but the Hall of Fame has existed only in the ether. The founder says, for the past 10 years, I've been tormented by other comedians about the Hall of Fame just being a website. So you're probably wondering, who's in the Rhode Island Comedy Hall of Fame? Whew, wait to hear this lineup. Charlie Hall, John Parada, Tom Cotter, Doreen Collins, Ace Aceto, Funny for Funds, Bobby Bracchiola, and Ruth Buzzy. They do hope to induct some new names, those new names, and I agree with you. These would be good names to add. You know, that list that I just rattled off, clearly all Hall of Famers. But if you could add the Farrelly brothers, Seth MacFarlane, Charlie Day, Jay Leno, or Deborah Messing, not to mention Frank Santos Sr. Not sure who Frank Santos Sr. is. I think those would be good names. The founder jokes, my real goal is to keep Will Smith away from the building. Waka waka. That's your comedy news for today. Follow the show for free on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Overcast, wherever you get your shows. If you want to support the show, buy me coffee or become a premium subscriber on Apple Podcasts. $5 get you this ad-free and early releases. All right, see you tomorrow.